All right, welcome to another video about our lessons on decimals. And today we are going to talk about division of decimals. Okay, how do we divide decimals? But first, what is division? Well, division is the process of separating things into parts. Okay, parts or groups, which we call them. Okay, so that is division when you want to separate a whole into different parts with equal number of those things in each part that we have. Okay, so by now you should be able to divide some simple numbers. Okay, another thing we should note is that division is the inverse of multiplication. Okay, basically you can know the division of certain numbers by two ways. First is by knowing the multiplication table. If you know the multiplication table, like 8 times 9 equals 72, you will know that two things. You know two things. 72 divided by 9 is 8, and 72 divided by 8 is 9. So you see, it's the inverse of multiplication. Okay, so that is division. Now, that's just a review. What we're going to talk about is how to divide decimals. Okay, for that, let's have an example. Okay, let's use orange. Okay, so for example, we want to divide 8.75 by 7. So, example here in 21st century mathematics is Maria buys 8.75 meters of cloth to make 7 pillowcases. How many meters of cloth does she need to use for each pillowcase if they are the same size? Okay, so we have 8.75 divided by 7. So as with all um, division problems, we can write that into our division house where the uh, dividend is here inside, or the total is inside, and then the divisor or the number of groups that we are going to divide the whole into is going to be outside of the division house. And from there, we're going to divide each number one by 7. Okay, let's begin. So how will we deal with this decimal point? Let's just ignore that for now. Let's just divide it until we get a 0 remainder. So 8 divided by 7, we're going to start with just one digit. It's going to be 1. There's only one 7 that can fit into 8. So 1 times 7, that's going to be 7. And then we subtract that, 8 minus 7. What's left is 1. And then we're going to bring down the 7 here. So that's 17. Now we're going to find out, we're going to divide 17 by 7. So that's 7 and 14, that's 2. So it's going to be 14. If you subtract that, you're going to get 7 minus 4, 3, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Then we can bring down this 5, and we're going to have 35. Now, if we divide 35 by 7, we're going to get 5. Okay. Again, you should know your multiplication tables by now. I'm just doing the reverse process. 7 times 5 is 35. That's why 35 divided by 7 is 5. So that's exactly 35. We're going to subtract that, and then it's going to be 0. So it's almost the same with dividing. Okay, with dividing whole numbers. However, the difference is that this has a decimal point. So what do we do with that? It's simple. We'll just put it on top like that. Okay, here in the quotient. All right, so we're going to have the answer 1.25. It's going to be the answer that we will have, 1.25. Okay, so that is if we are dividing a we're dividing what do you call this? A decimal number or a number with decimals and a whole number. What if both of them are decimals? Okay, what if both of them are decimals? How do we divide them? Let's use green. So how do we divide if both of them are decimals? For example, we have 3.072 divided by 1.2. Okay, so both of them are decimals, right? Both of them are decimals, and we want to divide them. So let's do the process first. Let's put it inside of the division house. Okay, 3.072 divided by 1.2. Now, we can divide by 1.2, but it's going to be very complicated, okay? So what we want to do, what we can do, para mas maging madali siya sa atin, is to move around the decimal place so that the divisor is a whole number. So let's move this decimal point here, all right? So it's gonna move one place. Let's also move this one. It's going to move one place. So what happens there? It's going to be now 30.72 divided by 12. Sir, will the answer be the same as with 3.072? Will it not change the answer? No, it will not change the answer. Okay, because it will adjust with the decimal point. As long as you move it on both sides at hindi lang sa isang side, not only on one side. Okay, so let's try to divide. We have 30 divided by 12. We're dividing by a two-digit number. So we need to consider the two digits here, 3 and 0. Because 3 cannot divide 12, so we automatically put there 0, but that can be invisible because that has no value. Okay? Sige. So you have 30 divided by 12. That's going to be 2. 2 times 12 is 24. Okay? Sir, how did you know that you're gonna write 2 there? Paano ko nalaman po na 2 dyan? One thing you can do with one trick with division is you write the multiples on the side so that it's easier for you to know what number you will put on the quotient. For example, 12. You can have 12 times 1 is 12. If you add 12, that's 24. So that is 2 12s, or 12 times 2. If you add another 12, you'll have 36, or that's 12 times 3, and so on and so forth. All right, so here we have a 67. Okay, so we want to reach 67 with our multiples. All right, so that's 36 plus 12, 48. Plus another 12, that's 60. Plus another 12, that's 72. So 72 is too big. It cannot fit in 67. The biggest number that can fix in 67, that's a multiple of 12. So 67 divided by 12 is going to be 5. 5 times 12 is going to be 60. And then if you subtract that, 7 minus 0 is just 7. 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay? Now, this is 6 because I forgot to borrow it. Now, we're going to bring down this 2. And we'll have 72, which is exactly this one, which is 12 times 6. So we have 6 there. And then multiply it here, we have 72. I mean, 6 times 12 is 72. So you're going to have a 0 remainder. What are we going to do with the decimal point? It's the same as before. Let's just put it directly on top. We have 2.56. So all of those, that is how we divide. That's how we divide decimals. Okay. Now, if you notice, it's the same as dividing using whole numbers, except you just have decimal points that you consider. If you have a decimal point in the divisor, you want to remove that, put it on at the last part so that you can divide easier. Okay? All right. So there are some cases, where we we have uh, the quotient as a decimal, but the dividend and the divisor are whole numbers. What do I mean? For example, we have 3 divided by 4. We can actually change this. Let's 3 divided by 4. If you want to know the decimal of 3 divided by 4, we're going to divide that. No. Right? So 4 divided by 3, it's not enough, right? 4 is too big for 3. So usually, it cannot be divided. But in the case of decimals, we can divide that if we put a decimal point here, and then write 0, which makes it effectively 30. Okay, it's still 3, my decimal point, but it's just a decimal point, so that we can know what is the result of 3 divided by 4. So we're going to put, since it's not enough, we're going to put here 0. Okay? Sige, now let's use 30. If 3 is not enough, let's use 30. Just make sure there's a decimal point there. All right, so that's going to be 4 times 7, which is 28. I already showed you the trick with the multiples. You just have to do it yourself. Okay, subtract that, you're going to have 2. Oh wait, it's still not enough. So let's put there a 0, another 0. Bring it down, we'll have 20. Okay, so 20 divided by 4 is good. It's nice, it's 5. So put there 20, subtract that, and that's 0. What are we going to do with the decimal point here? Same as before, we're going to push that up there. It's going to be 0.75. So 3 divided by 4 is 0.7. Simple enough? Now, if we divide numbers and we find a 0 remainder, we call that, as terminating decimals. What do we mean by that? When you say terminating, it ends, natatapos siya. Okay? So if there's decimals that end or terminating, then there should also be decimals that are repeating or non-terminating decimals. Non-terminating decimals, these are decimals that do not end. Okay? They never end. They will forever be, they will never have a 0 remainder. Okay, let's have an example. For example, we have 1 or 2 divided by 3 or 2 over 3. Again, fraction is division, so don't be surprised. If it's put in this form, it just means 2 divided by 3. So let's try to do that, 2 divided by 3, and we'll see what we mean by the non-terminating in a while. All right, so same process. It cannot fit, so that's a 0. But we're going to add another 0. Okay, and we will not forget the decimal point. So we have 20. 20 divided by 3 is 6, which is 18.
Now, let me ask this.
If you subtract 20 and 18, you're going to borrow from 2. It's going to be 1. And this is going to be 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay, and then we add another 0, just like we did before. We'll have 20. 20. Okay, 20 divided by 3 is also 6, which will give you 18, which will give you 2. Do you see? So it will continue on forever and ever, just being 6, then 18, then you subtract them to become 2. So it's a non-terminating decimal, it does not end. It's 0.66666. Let's put the decimal point on top. The answer will be 0.6666 dot dot dot. It will never end. It will just be 6 forever. So how do we do that? How do we write that as our answer? Well, we can't put every 6 there kasi sayang sa space. So we're just going to write 0. And since 6 is repeating, we're going to write 0.6 and just write a bar line on top of the 6. That bar line means it's going to repeat, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay? Sometimes it becomes 0. Sometimes it's 17. 17 will be the one that's repeating. Okay, so in that case, we are going to write 0.17, then bar line on top. 17, 17, 17, 17. Okay, so that is non-terminating decimals. The remainder will never be 0. It will never end. Okay, so that's a lot to digest. But the best thing to digest that is to have exercise, answer more problems on division. Just keep on dividing. Okay, just keep on practicing. You can find all of those. There are many exercises on the internet and on your book. Okay, you can rewind the video to go back to the parts where you don't understand. If you're having difficulty with basic division, then practice with whole numbers first, and after you got the hang of dividing whole numbers, then go ahead to dividing decimals. Okay, so because of the added step. All right, so I hope you learned something from that video, or you have reviewed from that video, and I will see you all in the next one. Happy solving.